You are nurturing life. Indidai sensed the world shift. She grasped the bench to regain her balance. Nurturing life. After all these years, tears streamed down her face unbidden. She found herself laughing and crying simultaneously. That evening, when Madagu returned, Indidai confronted him. I went to check, she said, her voice trembling. I am expecting a child. Madagu became motionless. Gradually, his expression transformed. So my home will not remain vacant. For the first time in many years, Indidai noticed pride in his gaze. Yet, she was unaware that joy could be perilous when it is selective. When the moment arrived, Indidai endured labor until her strength nearly abandoned her. Her voice faltered, her tears ceased. Her breathing became rapid and shallow. Then a wail resonated throughout the room. A baby. When the infant was placed on her chest, she looked down and murmured, "My child." Outside, Madagu awaited. Upon learning it was a girl, his expression hardened. He turned away. That very night, he introduced a new wife. I am certain you will not be like Indidai. Indidai remained frail, still bleeding, still cradling her newborn. Gather your belongings. This house is no longer yours. You will reside beneath the tree from now on. If you are still here by morning, I will expel you myself. You will live under the plantain tree from now on. Indidai clutched her child tighter. If you are still here by morning, he reiterated, I will expel you myself. That night, indeed, he whispered the child's name for the first time, Morona. Years later, they would inquire how a girl who slept beneath trees ascended so high. They would wonder how a child rejected at birth became the very one destiny safeguarded. But they never inquired about her mother's suffering. And they never envisioned that the same child cast aside without compassion would one day return with a destiny too burdensome for that house to bear. For now, Maruna rested peacefully in her mother's embrace, and Indidai held her close, unaware that this tiny child would evolve into the resolution for every tear she had ever shed. Morning arrived quietly, too quietly. Indidai walked before the beds. Her body ached, as this was the manner in which most of her mornings commenced. Upon Indidai's initial arrival at Madagu's residence, she was unaware that suffering would soon become her closest ally. Initially, there had been laughter. There had been hope. There had been plans shared in whispers during the night. However, as months transformed into years without the blessing of a child, everything shifted. Words turned sharp. What are you cooking? Gazes became frigid. Silence grew burdensome. Madagu ceased to call her by her name. He stopped sitting beside her. He no longer perceived her as a woman. Nothing she did was ever sufficient. A burnt meal. She was deemed careless. If the food was deemed unpalatable, she was accused of wastefulness. Add more soup to this place. If she spoke, she was considered disrespectful. If she remained silent, she was suspected of concealing something. Indeed, he learned to endure. She endured because she had no other place to go. At night, when the household was asleep, Indidai lay awake, gazing at the ceiling. She counted the cracks. She counted her breaths. She counted the years that had passed without compassion. Occasionally, she pressed her hand against her abdomen and whispered, "Even one child." No one heard her. One afternoon, while he was cooking, the aroma of oil suddenly intensified. Her stomach twisted violently. She dropped the spoon and hurried outside. She retched behind the wall. Her knees trembled. When she raised her head, she noticed Madagu observing her. His eyes narrowed. So now you are vomiting. What is it this time? Indidai responded, I still feel unwell. Every day brought something new. Every day brought something new. He walked away, but the illness lingered. Days went by. Indidai became increasingly frail. Her steps slowed. Her heart began to thump with an unfamiliar fear she was reluctant to identify. One evening, after Madagu had left, Indidai tightly secured her wrapper and quietly exited the compound. She did not inform anyone. At the small clinic, the woman there scrutinized her closely. She instructed, sit. Indeed, she sat. They conducted the test. Indidai waited. Her hands trembled. When the woman returned, she offered a gentle smile. You are carrying life. Indidai felt the world shift beneath her. She grasped the bench to regain her balance. Carrying life. After all these years, tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She found herself laughing and crying simultaneously. That night, when Madagu returned, Indidai stood before him. I want to check, she said, her voice trembling. I am pregnant. Madagu froze. Gradually, his expression transformed. So my house will not remain empty. For the first time in many years, Indidai noticed pride in his eyes. However, she was unaware that joy could be perilous when it is selective. When the moment arrived, Indidai endured labor until her strength nearly abandoned her. Her voice faltered, her tears ceased. Her breath came in rapid bursts. Then a cry resonated throughout the room. A child. When the baby was placed on her chest, she looked down and whispered, My child. Outside, Madagu waited. Upon learning it was a daughter, his expression hardened. He turned away. That same night, he introduced a new wife. I am certain you won't be like Indidai. Indidai was still frail, still bleeding, still cradling her newborn. Pack your belongings. This house is no longer yours. You will reside under the tree from now on. If you remain here by morning, I will expel you myself. You will live beneath the plantain tree from now on. Indidai clutched her child tighter. If you are still here by morning, he warned, I will throw you out myself. That night, indeed, he whispered the child's name for the first time, Morona. Years later, people would inquire how a girl who slept under trees ascended so high. They would wonder how a child rejected at birth became the very one destiny safeguarded. But they never inquired about her mother's suffering. And they never envisioned that the same child, cast aside without compassion, would one day return with a destiny too burdensome for that house to bear. For now, Marna slept peacefully in her mother's embrace, and Indidai held her close, unaware that this small child would grow to be the answer to every tear she had ever shed. Morning arrived silently, almost too silently. Indeed, he walked past the beds. Her body ached, as if it had endured a beating throughout the night. She sat up gradually, being careful not to disturb the child secured to her chest. Marna slept with her mouth slightly ajar, breathing gently, oblivious to the fact that the world had already cast her aside. Indeed, he surveyed his surroundings. There was no roof, no walls, no bed, only the expansive leaves of the trees behind the compound, hanging above her like feeble hands that could not offer protection. Thus, it was confirmed. She had indeed been cast out. Didi rose slowly. Her legs quivered. She took one step, then another, cradling Marna closely, as if releasing her would result in her vanishing. From her position, she could clearly see the main house. Smoke billowed from the kitchen. Life was already progressing without her. She observed Asu emerging from the house, fastening her wrapper securely around her waist. Manu walked with assurance. Her head was held high. Her lips formed a slight curve, not quite a smile, but something more cutting. Manu did not glance at Indidai, not even once. Behind her, Madagu exited as well. He stood next to Mbanyu like a man who had finally attained what he desired. He laughed at something she said. Indeed, he turned her face away. That was the moment she comprehended something profound and painful. She had not been expelled for any wrongdoing. She had been expelled because she had given birth to a girl. By afternoon, the sun grew hot. Nighty scoured the ground behind the compound until she discovered a spot where the trees were closely clustered. With trembling hands, she collected fallen leaves, broken branches, and dry grass. A kind neighbor passed by once and dropped 2 old poles beside her without a word. Did he nod in gratitude? By evening, she had constructed something that could barely be termed a shelter. It leaned to one side. The roof had gaps. The ground was bare, but it was all she possessed. That night, rain fell. Chilly drops trickled through the leaves and soaked the earth. Nighty sat upright, clutching Marmuna closely and shielding her from the rain to keep the child dry. Her teeth chattered, yet she refrained from crying. Laughter drifted from inside the house. Indeed, she closed her eyes. Days morphed into weeks and weeks into months. Indidai learned to endure behind the house. When the sun blazed too fiercely, she sought refuge in the shade. When it rained, she patiently waited for it to pass. When hunger struck, she would plead, "My child is hungry. Can you spare any food?" Occasionally, she washed clothes for neighbors. At times, she tidied up compounds. Did she like going to bed hungry? Yes, Mama. It's very good. Whenever she attempted to enter the main house to request food, she was driven away. Return to where you belong. This house is not for those who bring shame. This house is not for those who bring shame. Madagu remained silent. Silence became his response. Marna grew slowly. She was slender, but her eyes sparkled. She seldom cried. She observed everything. When Indidai walked, Marna followed. When Indidai walked, Marna waited. "Can I assist, Mama?" When Indidai felt weary, Marna offered her water with both hands. "That's refreshing." Marna glanced around and inquired, "Mama, why do we live here?" Indeed, she paused. She surveyed the trees. She examined the ground. She gazed at her daughter. "This is our home," she replied gently. Marna nodded, though she did not completely comprehend. When Marna reached the appropriate age for school, Indidai mustered her courage and approached Madagu. She stood before him, her hands clasped. "Papa Madagu," she spoke softly, "Marna is old enough for school." Madagu regarded her momentarily. "So she is your child?" "She is indeed your child," he responded. Madagu chuckled. "That girl," he remarked, "if you wish for her to learn letters, you must pay for it yourself. After all, she will end up in another man's kitchen, just like you did." Indeed, he nodded and walked away. That night, she wept quietly so that Marna would not hear. A year later, Manu gave birth to a boy. His name was Zika. On that day, the compound resonated with joy. The goat was sacrificed. Music filled the air. Neighbors engaged in dance. Madagu proudly carried the boy, lifting him high. "This is my son," he proclaimed loudly. Indeed, he observed from afar, with Marna holding his hand. Within the main house, Amberu's son thrived like a royal child. Whenever Zika cried, everyone responded. When Zika pointed, someone complied. When Zika inquired, the answer was never no. As a young child, Zakana rarely walked far. He was always carried. If he discarded one plate, another was provided. If he broke something, no one reprimanded him. "Leave him be," Madaga would say. "He is just a boy." Zika had everything he desired. Occasionally, even when Maduaga lacked the funds, he still managed to provide. He borrowed. He borrowed from friends. He borrowed from merchants. He borrowed from individuals who charged interest. "All for my son," he would declare with pride. When it came time for school, Maduagu did not hesitate. Private school, better uniforms, additional books. If the fees rose, he paid. If the school requested more, he borrowed again. Meanwhile, behind the house, Maruna observed everything. She saw Zika enjoying meat while she consumed plain food, gari, and watery soup. She noticed him wearing new clothes while hers were mended. She watched him carry books while she waited. She never voiced her complaints. She never questioned why. She simply observed. And within her young heart, something quiet was developing. Not anger, not jealousy, but understanding. She was learning early on that some children were nurtured to receive everything, while others were raised to endure without asking. Years went by. Indeed worked harder. Her hands became calloused. Her back began to bend prematurely. Marina assisted her mother in selling small items at the market: pepper, ground nuts, firewood. Sometimes they sold out completely. Other times they sold nothing. When Marina reached the age of 14, she fell gravely ill. She lay on the mat beneath the trees, her body ablaze with fever, her voice barely audible. "Mama," she whispered. Indidai hurried to Madagon and knelt before him. "Please," she implored. "Marona is unwell. I need your assistance." Madagon scowled as he tallied the bundles of money he was preparing to hand over to Banu for their son's requirements. "So now you remember me," he remarked, not even glancing up for a moment. Take her back to where you found her, he said harshly. That child is not mine. She will perish. She will perish, Madigan. Indidai dashed to a neighbor's home and borrowed a small amount of money, tears streaming down her face. Maruna survived, but the illness left her frail for an extended period. When Marna reached the age of 18, she completely ceased attending school. Indidai could no longer afford the tuition fees. One evening, as they sat beneath the trees, Maruna spoke softly. Mama, she said quietly. Mama, I wish to leave. Indidai's heart skipped a beat. Leave, she inquired. I want to go far away. I want to work. I want to assist you. I want to go far, Maruna reiterated. I want to work. I want to help you. Indidai shook her head. It is dangerous, and you have already helped me sell enough, she whispered. Maruna grasped her hand. I will return for you, Maruna promised.
Isuer, manga.
That night, Indidai found it difficult to sleep. She gazed into the darkness, listening to the wind rustle through the trees. She was unaware that this decision, this single statement, was about to unlock a door that could either rescue her daughter or lead to her complete destruction. Indidai awoke when she felt Maruna's hand gently touch her shoulder.
Nama, Maruna whispered.
Indidai sat up slowly, her heart already heavy, as if it sensed what was forthcoming. She looked at her daughter's face in the dim light. Maruna appeared calm, but her eyes were profound and serious, too serious for a young girl. Indidai reached out and held her hands. Are you certain? She asked softly. Maruna nodded. I cannot remain here and witness your suffering any longer. I want to help you. Indidai opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. She pulled Maruna into her embrace and held her tightly. Be cautious, she whispered. Remember your identity. Remember your origins. Maruna nodded once more. Those were indeed the same words he had once whispered into her heart when she was young and full of hope. Hearing them now terrified her more than silence ever could. The amount of money Marina carried was minimal, far too little for a significant journey. Indeed, he had gone from one house to another, quietly begging. Some neighbors offered a little. Some turned away. Others claimed they had nothing. Indeed, he carefully tied the money in a cloth and placed it in Maruna's bag. This is all I possess, she said softly. It is more than sufficient, Mama. Thank you, Maruna replied as she embraced her mother tightly. They walked together to the roadside. When the bus arrived, it was already filled with noise. Voices shouting, bags being tossed, people pushing.
Marina climbed aboard.
She glanced back once and stood still, waving with a trembling hand. Then the bus departed, and Maruna was gone. The journey was long. The bus shook and rattled as it progressed. People argued, people laughed, people stumbled. Maruna sat quietly, holding her small bag close to her chest. She observed villages transform into towns and towns evolve into something larger. Her heart raced with every mile. When the bus finally halted, the noise assaulted her first. Cars, voices, shouting, movement everywhere. This was unlike home. This was unlike anything she had ever known. This was the city. Maruna stepped down cautiously, her eyes wide. People rushed past her as if she were invisible. Someone jostled her shoulder. Another stepped on her foot. She gripped her bag tighter. Before she could even locate a place to sit, 2 young men brushed past her. Sorry, one said quickly. Maruna nodded. Then her heart sank. Her bag felt light, too light. She opened it swiftly. The money was missing. Her clothes were gone. Everything was absent. Maruna stood there, frozen. For a long moment, she remained still. She scanned the area as if the bag might reappear if she stared hard enough. It did not happen. Her knees became weak. She gradually sat down by the roadside. That was the moment she began to cry. Maruna spent the night on bare concrete. The building lacked doors, windows, and a roof to adequately shield her head. It was an unfinished structure, neglected and forgotten, quietly standing among taller houses that had moved on without it. Maruna curled herself into a small corner. She embraced her knees to her chest and rested her head on them, attempting to make herself smaller, trying to vanish into the darkness. Her stomach ached. Hunger burned within her like a slow, unquenchable fire. She was fearful of sleeping. Every noise caused her to flinch. Footsteps passed outside. A distant shout reverberated through the night. She pressed her back more firmly against the wall. This was not how she envisioned her first night away from home. The subsequent days were long and harsh. Marina walked until her legs ached. She quietly asked for assistance. Some individuals completely ignored her, walking by as if she were invisible. Some glanced at her and shook their heads. Others hurled insults at her. Finally, a woman halted in front of her. She scrutinized Marina from head to toe, then dropped a piece of bread onto the ground.
Take it.
Take it, she said without any warmth. Marina bent down slowly. She brushed the dust away with her fingers and quietly consumed the bread while standing by the roadside. She did not voice any complaints.
She did not weep.
As evening approached, her body began to fail her. Her legs quivered when she stood for too long. Her head felt light. Her stomach twisted in pain. She was alone. Marina closed her eyes and thought of her mother. She recalled the trees behind the house. She remembered home. Tears silently streamed down her cheeks. She was uncertain of what tomorrow would hold. But as she lay there on the cold floor of that abandoned building, one truth weighed heavily on her heart. The city had not embraced her. The following morning, Marina awoke. Her legs felt unsteady, as if they no longer belonged to her. A sharp hunger gnawed at her stomach, more intense than the previous night. She pressed her hand against it and swallowed hard. I must not fail, she murmured to herself. Stepping out of the building, she noticed people moving quickly, as if they were late for something significant. No one paid her any attention. She traversed street after street, observing people opening shops and food being prepared. The aroma of fried foods permeated the air, causing her head to spin. Her mouth watered, yet she compelled herself to continue walking. Each time she approached a potential employer, they rejected her due to her frail appearance. The response was always the same. No work. Go away. Return with an adult. By midday, the sun was scorching. Marina sat on the edge of a gutter, resting her head on her knees. Her eyes stung, and her body felt hollow. She recalled her mother's words, "Remember who you are." Closing her eyes for a moment, she breathed slowly, and at that precise moment, she noticed an elderly woman standing nearby. The woman appeared bewildered. Her attire was tidy yet simple, and a small handbag hung loosely from her arm, but something seemed amiss. The woman turned slowly, glancing left and right, as if searching for something elusive. She took a step forward, then abruptly halted, holding her head. Her complexion was pale, and her lips were parched. Marina slowed her pace. Initially, she considered walking past, as everyone else was doing. People hurried by, boarding buses, shouting directions, and arguing over transport fares. No one spared the woman a second glance. The woman swayed slightly, her knees bending. Before Marina could deliberate, she acted. "Mama," Marina said gently, stepping closer. "Are you all right?" The woman did not respond right away. She blinked several times, as if attempting to regain focus. "I don't know," she replied slowly. "My head is spinning." She took another step and nearly stumbled. Marina managed to catch her just in time. "Please," Marina said hurriedly. "Sit down." She assisted the woman to a low concrete edge near the bus stop and helped her take a seat. The woman's body felt light, almost delicate, as if she had not eaten properly for days. Marina glanced around. "Please, do you have any water?" she inquired of the nearby traders. No one responded. However, she did not cease her efforts. Eventually, a man nearby handed her a small sachet of water. Marina expressed her gratitude quickly and knelt before the woman. "Take small sips," she advised gently. The woman drank slowly, her hands trembling. Marina fanned her lightly with her hand, remaining close and observing her face attentively, just as she had done with her mother many times beneath the trees. After some time, the woman's breathing became more regular. She looked at Marna with clearer eyes now.
Thank you, she said.
My name is Mrs. Adamy. I am Marna, she replied. Once Mrs. Adamy felt better, Marna took a step back. Ma, she said politely, you are stronger now. I will begin to leave. Mrs. Adamy regarded her. Going where? She inquired. Marna hesitated. I don't really have a place. I arrived a few days ago from the village, she said softly. Mrs. Adamy remained silent for a moment before asking calmly, Why not stay with me? Marna looked up, surprised. I live not far from here, Mrs. Adamy continued. I sell akra by the roadside every morning. It's not much, but it helps pay the bills. She smiled faintly. Would you like to stay with me and accompany me to sell akra? Maruna's eyes widened. Really? She asked. Yes, Mrs. Adamy affirmed. You will assist me, and you will have a place to stay. Marna did not hesitate. Yes, Mama, she replied quickly, her voice filled with relief. They walked together to Mrs. Adamy's house. The house was simple, neither large nor small, just clean and quiet. That evening, Mrs. Adamy showed Marna a small room. There, she said, you can sleep here. Marna stepped inside. There was a bed, a real bed with a clean mattress. That night, Marna experienced a restful sleep on a cozy bed in a tranquil room for the first time since departing from home. She slept soundly. Marna awoke before dawn. She gradually sat up in bed and surveyed the small room. It was serene. It was tidy. It felt secure. For a brief moment, she wondered if she was dreaming. Then, she recalled everything. Marna quickly rose and exited the room. Mrs. Oddie was already awake, standing in the small kitchen, gently frying arra in hot oil. The aroma filled the house, warm and inviting. Marna felt her stomach settle. Good morning, Mama, Marna greeted. Mrs. Oddie smiled kindly. You are up early. That is good. Marna nodded in agreement. I want to assist. Mrs. Adamy instructed her on what to do, how to mix the beans, how to turn the akra carefully to prevent burning, and how to arrange them neatly. As the sky brightened, they carried the tray to the roadside. Mrs. Oddie sat on her small stool while Marna stood beside her. People passed by, some made purchases, some exchanged greetings, and some shared jokes. Marna observed attentively. By midday, they returned home. Marna swept the house, washed the dishes, and fetched water. Mrs. Oddie often took breaks. Occasionally, she pressed her hand to her chest or sat quietly for extended periods, staring into space. Mama, are you all right? Marna would inquire. I am fine, Mrs. Oddie would respond. Just tired. Days turned into weeks. Marna accompanied Mrs. Oddie every morning to sell akra. In the afternoons, she prepared simple meals. In the evenings, she listened as Mrs. Oddie spoke about trivial matters, neighbors, old memories, and quiet regrets. At night, Marna slept soundly. The house no longer felt desolate. Mrs. Oddie laughed more frequently, ate better, and often called out Maruna's name. My daughter, she said one evening without realizing it. Maruna's heart tightened. It had been a long time since she had been addressed that way. Meanwhile, far away in Madaga's compound, unrest prevailed. Zeno was no longer the boy everyone prayed for. He ceased returning home and began to skip school. He had disputes with his father. Leave him, Banu initially suggested. He is still too young to learn. However, Zakena's behavior deteriorated further. He associated with troublemakers and demanded money, often shouting, Give me what I want. This time, his father refused. Madago started to feel anxious. The son he had indulged now brought him disgrace. Meanwhile, in the city, Marna continued to look after Mrs. Adamy. She laundered her clothes and assisted her in walking when her legs felt weak. She remained awake when Mrs. Oddie struggled to sleep. One night, Mrs. Adamy grasped Maruna's hand and softly said, If anything happens to me, remember that you are a good child. Marna quickly shook her head, insisting, Nothing will happen to you, Mama. Mrs. Oddie offered a faint smile, but her hand felt cold. The following morning, Mrs. Adide did not awaken. Marna was the first to notice, as the house was unusually silent. There were no sounds from the kitchen, no aroma of Era oil, and no gentle footsteps. "Mama." Marna called softly as she approached the room, but received no reply. Her heart began to race. She lightly knocked and opened the door. Mrs. Adme lay on the bed, her face serene, her eyes closed as if she were merely resting. One hand rested on her chest while the other lay at her side. "Mama," Marna whispered again, moving closer to her. She touched her hand, which was cold. Marna froze, standing there for a long moment, unable to cry or speak. Then, the painful truth gradually settled in her heart. Mrs. Adami was gone. Marna screamed, prompting neighbors to rush in and gather around. Someone called for the authorities. Everything that transpired afterward felt like a dream from which Marna could not awaken. Mrs. Adme was laid to rest quietly, and Marna wept as if she had lost her own mother. Just when she believed life was beginning to show her kindness, this tragedy struck. After the burial, Marna returned to the small house alone, where the room felt empty once more. She packed her few belongings and prepared to leave. She was uncertain about her next destination, yet she was aware that remaining was not an option. It was at that moment that a letter arrived. The letter was enclosed in a brown envelope, with Maruna's name clearly inscribed on it. She gazed at it for an extended period before deciding to open it. Inside, she found a letter from a lawyer. Her hands shook as she read the contents. Mrs. Adami had bequeathed all her possessions to Maruna. Everything. The house. The properties that Maruna had not even known existed, along with the savings. All of it was entrusted to her. Mrs. Adami had been a wealthy woman, isolated and unwell. She did not need to sell a car, yet she opted to do so in order to engage with others and converse with someone daily. Maruna gradually took a seat. Her head spun. She had never been aware. She had never suspected. Mrs. Suddy had remained silent. Maruna wept once more, but this time her tears were a blend of shock, gratitude, and profound sorrow. She carefully folded the letter and pressed it against her chest. Maruna remained there for an extended period, in silence. She did not rush back to the village. Instead, she lingered in the city for a while, addressing the affairs that Mrs. Adami had left unresolved. During this period, she gradually began to comprehend the significance of what had been bestowed upon her. Not through immediate opulence, but through subtle revelations, documents bearing her name, signatures she did not recognize, and responsibilities she had never envisioned. Once everything was finally organized, her thoughts were consumed by one person, her mother. The return journey felt longer than before, not due to the distance, but because her heart was brimming with emotion. Upon reaching the compound, she did not announce her presence. She entered quietly, just as she had always done. She found herself behind a house, sweeping the same ground she had tended to for years. Initially, she did not hear the footsteps. It was only when a shadow fell across the broom that she looked up. For a brief moment, she stared, uncertain of what her eyes were perceiving. The girl standing there appeared older, stronger, and more robust. Yet, the eyes remained unchanged. "Maruna," Didi said slowly, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the moment. Maruna stepped forward. Mama Naidi dropped the broom without realizing she had done so. She advanced, then paused, then moved again, her hands shaking. When she finally touched Maruna's face, her knees buckled. "You came back," she whispered. Maruna embraced her tightly, crying into her shoulder. It was the kind of cry that stemmed from years of suppressing emotions. Maruna remained silent. She simply held her and allowed the tears to flow. That evening, as they sat together, Ward arrived at the house. Zakena had been taken to the police station. He had been apprehended for stealing alongside boys who lacked direction and fearlessness. The news did not surprise Madigo. It merely confirmed what he had already been observing. The son he had shielded from repercussions had transformed into someone he could no longer manage. Maruna absorbed the news quietly. She did not comment. She did not gloat. Her focus remained on her mother. That night, she informed Naidi that she would not be staying. "You are coming with me," she stated plainly. And Didi did not contest. For the first time, leaving did not feel like being expelled. Months later, on a sweltering afternoon, Maruna was called from the gate. When she stepped outside, she saw her father, Papa Madaga. He did not arrive with pride or excuses. He came alone. When he stood before Maruna, his shoulders were slumped in a manner they had never been before. He spoke slowly and deliberately, as if each word held significance. I was wrong. I was wrong. I failed. I failed you. Maruna listened attentively. She did not interrupt him. She did not raise her voice. When he concluded, she nodded once. I forgive you, Papa, Papa, she replied. However, forgiveness did not equate to returning. She maintained her distance, and Madago recognized that some things, once shattered, do not revert to their original form. Life progressed. Maruna established a proper home for Didi and opened a supermarket in her name. They both led a tranquil and consistent existence. She encountered a man who communicated without anger and did not equate love with control. Through him, she discovered an alternative way of living. When she later cradled her own child, she grasped something without needing to articulate it. What had commenced beneath trees concluded in a place of safety. What had flourished in want had now found abundance, and what had endured harshness had opted for tenderness. The narrative did not conclude with a bang. It simply progressed in a manner that was more favorable than before. Moreover, the child who was once scorned for being female demonstrated that success in life is not contingent upon gender. Every child is entitled to equal affection and support. The moral of the story is that kindness possesses the ability to transform lives. Maruna exhibited kindness even in times of scarcity. This kindness unlocked opportunities she had never anticipated. When we opt to assist others without seeking recompense, goodness ultimately returns to us. A compassionate heart, regardless of its size or how overlooked it may be, can contribute to a brighter future.